here in Dayton. I'm Ed, W0YK, and we've got a really nice program here with some good presentations this morning. We're packed pretty tight. Oops, what happened to my... Oh, I see. There we go. Well, it's not going to work so fast. We got it.
Meow.
Okay, I guess we'll use...
It's a good thing we don't use computers for RTTY, huh?
Nothing else. Okay.
There we go. Okay, so we're going to hold if we ever get started, we're going to hold questions to the end because the presentations are covering a lot of material and are, as I said, pretty tight. After this, I will post the PDFs of the presentations on the website, so you don't need to madly take notes. You can get references to things there. Before we go on, you may notice a lot of you are also interested in the contesting forum, which starts in 30 minutes. And so for the last 10 years, at least as long as I can remember, that we've been doing this in this slot, we've been overlapped. And so I'd just like a quick show of hands of how does this matter to anybody? It matters to me because I'd like to be also participate in the contesting forum. So does anybody care about this? Would you like to see this moved? Okay. How about no, you like this slot, I'm going to leave it here. How about people that don't care? Okay. All right, we'll feed that back to the forum people. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce Larry, K8UT, who many of you know has been a strong supporter of the N1MM logger, which is, you may also know, the most popular contesting logger for RTTY nowadays. Half of the CQ RTTY logs that come in both of those contests come in being made from N1MM, and all the rest of the loggers take up the other half. So it's clearly the dominant logger. Larry has put up some really nice instructional videos and tutorials. He's part of the development team. Is very active on the reflector, and so I'm sure he's well known to all of you. Please welcome Larry K8UT.
Wait. One last opportunity to break it. Just a second.
Can you turn the volume up just a pinch?
I'll talk loud. I'm a long way from the mics. Well, it stopped raining and you're still here, so I guess that you know, you came to see this thing. You didn't just come in to get out of the rain. There we go. Okay, I'm Larry, K8UT. My agenda's a little crowded today. We're broken into 20-minute segments. I'm first going to talk about two-tone and new RTTY decoders. Is this loud enough? No, not yet.
Close talk.
Okay. How's that, eh? Okay. So first I'm going to talk about two-tone, a new RTTY decoder. Secondly, I'll talk about a concept that I've kind of coined and called adaptive RX. I'll show how to use both of those in a contest. And then, time permitting, I've got a short, just 2-minute video at the end where you can see these things live. A little bit about me. What is two-tone? There's a quiz on Monday. I hope you guys are taking notes. Don't listen to Ed. You need to take notes. What is two-tone? Well, it's just another RTTY program. It's like many of the others that are already out there that you may know and love. Like MMTTY, it only decodes RTTY. It's not a multi-function digital decoder. And it's only a RTTY demodulator, which means you must use it in conjunction with another program. It gets called by another program or a logging program. So it's not standalone the way MMTTY is. Currently it supports a lot of different contesting and DXing applications. I have those listed here, and David, G3YYD, has been increasing this list. And this program is under active development, so if you haven't downloaded it lately, you should do it again because it's probably different. And if it doesn't support the logging software you use, it may in the near future. When it first came out, I took a very short look at it. I'm a MMTTY bigot, I need to confess that. And I looked, and you know, I was used to MMTTY. For the sake of this presentation, I counted the controls in MMTTY, there were 119. I loaded two-tone, they were 8. I said, this can't be worth anything, I'm not even going to bother. Besides, it didn't operate FSK, which for me was a showstopper, so I put it aside. The problem is, you guys started using it, and every time there was a RTTY contest, there was this little love fest that happened on the reflectors about, I used it, it's wonderful, greatest thing since canned beer. So after a while, I decided, okay, maybe I should start drinking this two-tone Kool-Aid. So I started looking at it and installed it myself. My first thought, you know, the engineer in me said, let's do a scientific comparison. We'll take the 119 settings and MMTTY and the 8 in this and these different combinations. No, that wasn't going to happen. And instead, Ed recommended, why don't you survey the hams out there? Conduct a survey online, find out who's using it, why they like it, what works and what doesn't work. And so what you're going to see is the results of that survey. Now, you know, I'm a little skeptic when it comes to surveys because, you know, you can, this could be Chicago, we can vote early and vote often. You can stack the deck. So I ran a survey for a few weeks in April. Fortunately, there was a good mix of avid contesters, medium contesters, and lightweight contesters out there. So I thought I got a representative look at the RTTY community with the results that I got. Interestingly enough, 1/3 of the response, we had 150 responses, which is a little light, but of those 150, 50 of them said, first of all, either said, I never heard of it, or they said, I downloaded it, but I haven't tried it yet, or I tried it, but I haven't made a decision. So I would like to poll the group. Who's here because they're saying, what is this thing? Haven't downloaded it, haven't tried it. So you know, that looks like about 1/3. So you're right about where the survey was. I built a grid based on the survey. Not loud enough? Really? Okay, here we go. I built a grid based on that survey with key differentiators, trying to make this simple for me, saying, look, what are the conditions under which you use an MMTTY or a RTTY demodulator? You know, when there's no QRM, heavy QRM, when signals are strong, when signals are weak. So if you're out in the audience, you should look at this and try and identify which of those 4 quadrants apply to you. In the upper left-hand corner, no QRM strong signals. My answer there is, who cares? You could do this with, you know, 2 paper cups and a string, any demodulator you want, and you'll get good reception. Under heavy QRM strong signals, upper right corner, well, that's either the contesters out there who are running a contest, or maybe you're a de-expedition that you're someplace remote and there's this huge pileup trying to work you. Which one of these products, MMTTY or two-tone, works better under those circumstances? In the bottom left, weak signals, but no QRM. Well, that could be you DXers in the group who are trying to work that DX station. He's operating split. Hopefully he's the only signal on his frequency. But his signal's real weak, hopefully. And then there's the bottom right-hand corner. Heavy QRM, weak signals. And that kind of applies to everybody. Given the circumstance where you are in the contest, you're going to find, or chasing a DXer, you're going to find yourself in that circumstance. Wait, wrong way. So here's the results. Based on what you said, in which condition does MMTTY work better? Two-tone work better? Are they essentially equal? And you can see from the colors here on the screen, no QRM strong signals. This is my who cares box. This is where you said, doesn't matter. If I've got no QRM, this is the, you know, 2 paper cups and a string. Anything will decode properly under those circumstances. Under heavy QRM and strong signals, again, the majority of you said it doesn't matter. Both of them struggle under that circumstance. But you can tell by the blue area on the, oh, back up. I meant to light up a light. Light, yep. You can tell that two-tone here has a slight advantage. Aside from those who said it doesn't matter, two-tone has a slight advantage over MMTTY. But it's the 2 bottom quadrants where two-tone really excels. If you look down there to those blue areas, clearly the audience feels that that's where two-tone comes through. Weak signals, whether there's QRM or not, two-tone clearly out-decodes MMTTY. And that, frankly, agrees with my own experiences using the product. The other thing I asked was, let's talk about the 2 important features of a decoder. and that is AFC management and squelch. And in this area, you felt that two-tone was better at AFC management, which isn't as flexible, doesn't have all the buttons to push, as MMTTY does it. But it works, and it works well. And under squelch, things were about equal. This looks like a pretty equal-shaped pie. And that's probably because, again, the squelch in two-tone is not adjustable. It's down, was it 1 dB was the thing?
1 dB now.
Down at 1 dB. So it's way down by the noise. And unless you intentionally want to, MMTTY does an okay job with this, but you can run the squelch button, you know, the squelch slider in MMTTY up and down. This is a slide that brought me to a halt when I was doing the survey. This is the one where I said, something's going on here. I asked you what your decision was. Those of you who have tried it, what did you decide to do? You'll notice a very small minority said, I tried it, but I'm not using it. Very small. An even smaller minority said, I tried it, and I abandoned everything else. It's the only thing I use. Very small number abandoned their other product. The huge majority said, I tried it, and I'm using it in conjunction with the other RTTY product. This surprised me because, frankly, I didn't think that the RTTY community was that using multiple decoders was that popular in the RTTY community. And maybe the reason I felt that way is because I hadn't gotten there yet. So I found myself staring in the mirror, realizing that I was a little bit behind the 8 ball when it came to using multiple. You know, Ed here uses 6 of them, makes my brain hurt. I haven't been there yet. So when I started using two-tone was the first time I began using multiple decoders in a RTTY contest. My recommendations relative to two-tone are as follows. Both two-tone and MMTTY are excellent RTTY programs, but that doesn't mean they're identical. If you can only operate one, which is to say, for whatever reason, your screen real estate, the software you're running, the capacity of your own brain can only run one decoder at the time, two-tone is clearly your best bet. If you can manage to run more than one decoder, however, take advantage of the benefits of each package and run a pair of decoders, one of two-tone and one of MMTTY. So in summary about two-tone, it's an excellent RTTY demodulator. It should definitely be in your RTTY contest toolbox, and it's best when used in concert with MMTTY. So my bottom line is, if you aren't already, you should also start drinking that two-tone Kool-Aid. So that's the first part. That's the two-tone piece. Let's move around to this other topic, which I call adaptive RX. First, a little bit about my station. I'm a little pistol station. I've got one radio only, one amplifier, one computer, one tower, one directional antenna. So in the big gun, little pistol debate, I'm that little pistol. And as a result, in RTTY contests, I run primarily search and pounce. Now, once in a while, band conditions are favorable, and I'll set up and do some runs, but I do an awful lot of search and pounce. In the ARRL RTTY contest just this January, I had an epiphany. I realized that with each search, I'm an icon guy, I need to confess I'm an icon guy. With each QSO in that contest, which was pretty crowded, so there was a lot of QRM, I found that with each QSO, I was turning the twin peak filter on and off on my radio. So I turn it off, do my search and pounce thing, find a station I want to work, turn it on, work the station. Turn it off, turn it on. So turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, move it out. So, and I had this aha moment. It was, you know, we got a computer sitting here. Why can't the computer do this for me? Why am I doing this manually? So in my brain, you know, I thought, well, you know, this shouldn't be too difficult. I need some software that will monitor the VFO traffic between my radio and the computer. When the frequency is changing, open up my filters. Audio filters, eye filters, open up the radio when I'm tuning. And when I'm done tuning, when I take my hand off the VFO knob, close down the filter so I can zero in on the station I want. And, you know, from a programmer standpoint, it's just a SMOT. It's just a small matter of programming. The implementation was a little more complicated than that. First of all, because I decided I wanted it to work in RTTY and CW. I wanted to control both sets of filters, not just IF, the twin peak filter in RTTY in this case, but I also wanted to control the APF filters in CW as well as the IF filters. I learned right away that I wanted it to be able to be a little more tolerant of me moving to VFO. So when I tune in a station and need to just do a little fine tuning, you get a CW station right in the middle of the passband, or just retune that radio station a little bit, I didn't want it to open up the filters. I wanted it to have a little bit of, to ignore minor QSY changes. And I also didn't want it to slam the filters in and out really quickly. I wanted a time delay built in. So I built some terms into some software that I wrote. There's one of two things that's happening. You're either tuning or you're stationary. There's a notion of QSY sensitivity. How far can I move that VFO before the software decides he's moving the knob? And finally, dwell time. How long does the VFO sit stationary before I slam the filters in and bring the bandwidth down? Wrong button again. If you're sitting in the audience, you're probably wondering, Larry, what are you talking about? Are you talking about a product, or are you talking about a concept? Well, if you're an ICOM kind of person, I'm talking about a product. I've written this for me, this is enlightened self-interest is very selfish. I wrote this for me, it works well, I love it. From what I can tell from my website, several dozen people have downloaded it. I've gotten email from people that are running it. So if you're an ICOM person, it works. Here's the name of the file and where you can get it. I've heard from people that are running it with all of these software packages successfully. And so I'm going to guess there's a couple dozen people using this thing. I personally use it constantly. I've got it on all the time, both for DXing and contesting. Here's a configuration screenshot. If you're an ICOM owner, you know that we don't have the advantage that K3 owners have, which is diversity. So I threw diversity into the mix so that ICOMs can do diversity, and VFO-B will follow VFO-A. And in the adaptive RX section, you'll notice that, find the button. Up here, when I'm tuning the VFO, what do I want to happen? Which IF filter do I want running? If I'm in CW, which audio filter do I want in? If I happen to be in RTTY when I'm tuning, do I want the twin peak filter on while tuning? If the VFO is stationary, which IF filter do I want? If I happen to be in CW, which audio filter? If I'm in RTTY, kick in the twin peak filter. And then down at the bottom, what's the QSY sensitivity? How far will you let me turn the knob before you open up the filters? I found that 50 cycles works about, it sounds like a very low number, but that's the number that works for me in both RTTY and CW. And the dwell time is 2.5 seconds. When you see the video, you'll notice that once the audio stops shifting in the video, it takes about 2.5 seconds before the filter slams shut. Now, I'm calling this a product, but folks, this is not perfect. This is not a product. This is still pretty rough around the edges. The serial COM support is pretty lousy. If you misconfigure the COM ports, it crashes. You have to restart it. It requires an additional serial port out of your computer. Polling rates defined by your software. If you're running in 1mm logger, DX for Win, DX Labs that has nice, or DX Labs, not DX for Win, that have nice fast polling times in the millisecond range, maybe 4 times a second. This is really snappy. If you're running a dog slow polling package like DX for Win, which is 2 seconds, you might be unhappy with how slowly this thing opens and closes the filters. Some likely enhancements in the future, if I go places with this thing and continue the development, turn it into a router so that it doesn't require a second COM port. Go from protocol injection. Right now I just squirt a little CIV on the wire and try and avoid collisions with whatever your logging software is when I make changes to the filters. And extend the program to other manufacturers. Clearly Electronic would be the first of those. If you have tried it or you want to try it and do try it, comments are welcome via email. Let's talk about using both in a contest. Here's a screenshot from the ARI RTTY contest. And I call this being insertion pounce single op 1 VFO with second VFO being diversity. On the left-hand side is VFO-A and its band map, MMTTY, and an instance of two-tone, and the narrow filters are kicked in. On the right-hand side is VFO-B with everything the same except the filters are not kicked in. So you'll notice here what the band map looks like. I have type filters in that were applied by CIV filter. This is two-tone. This is MMTTY. Here's the two-tone decoding. Here's MMTTY's decoding. Here's two-tone in VFOB. Notice that, you know, we've got 3 kHz wide band map here. VFOB with MMTTY, again, two-tone versus MMTTY. And down on the bottom are the data entry screens and the band maps on the sides for an N1MM logger. Now the interesting part about this is I went and found a nice, strong set of signals with no QRM. And you'll notice that in this instance, everything agrees. The signal report and exchange over here equals this one, equals this one, equals this one. And frankly, when you're running multiple decoders, you're going to find this 80 to 90% of the time. So then I went looking for somebody with a lousy, real low S0 signal. And in this instance, things changed. Under these circumstances, weak signals and a lot of QRM, in no instance did any decoder get everything right. And so I figured this out by going into looking at the different panels and saying, well, I'm pretty sure this panel got the call sign right. This two-tone panel over here got the exchange right. MMTTY down here got a little bit of it right. But you can look at these visually and decide, obviously, two-tone up here didn't get it right. But you can look at these visually and decide what should go into your log. And this is the clearest example I can give for running multiple decoders and looking at them visually and deciding, this one got it right, this is what's going in my log, so that you don't have busted calls or busted exchanges in a contest. So in summary, these things are just tools, but you can use these tools to increase your QSO rate, minimize your busted calls, busted exchanges, avoid those again, repeat requests, eliminate unnecessary tasks. You talk about operator fatigue, you know, filter on, filter off, filter on, filter off. Let the computer do that for you. And the bottom line is improve your contest score and your operating experience. Am I beyond time for the video?
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay, we're going to jump to the video. First 30 seconds of video is simple. One screen, MMTTY. Second shows MMTTY and two-tone operating. And the third is a short instance of some CW. So here I am tuning in a station. Oh wait, made that go up on my screen.
Thank you, Roy. Appreciate you.
This worked fine yesterday when I tested it, because it was the software.
Okay, next up is Mark into QT. You may know Mark certainly from his contesting, either as N2QT or WE4M in the WIPIX contest. A few months ago, he wrote a column in NCJ on this topic, on skimmer. We have Pete and 4ZR in the audience that also helped us go through this presentation and try to get all the information down into a short period of time. So we'll have plenty of people to answer questions at the end. So please welcome Mark into QT.
And I'll tell you, I've been in the flea market negotiating everybody down who wanted $2 for a relay down to $1. So my voice is probably not as good as it used to be, but we'll see. My talk is on skimming goes digital. Well, you might say, what is a skimmer? Well, skimming, or a skimmer, is a terminology that came about when WVE3NEA first introduced the CW skimmer in 2008. It had provisions for integration into the packet cluster, and then shortly after, and I was amazed, it was only a couple, 3 months after, the CW skimmer started that the RBN started. And the RBN really brought that to the multitudes because it was a way of combining all the CW skimmers, into one way that they could either be processed by your local packet cluster or used over the web. CW contesting was changed forever. If we had a lot of time, we could debate whether it was changed for the good or for the bad, but we do know it was changed. I happen to be one of those guys that I'm not just a boy in his radio. For me, The more computers you have, the more monitors you have, the more complexity you have, the more fun it is. So I like CW Skimmer, and I happen to like RTTY Skimmer. But, you know, there were only rumors of a RTTY Skimmer. I had talked to VE3 NEA, asked him about it. He said it was kind of interesting, but maybe. And there's been some rumors on and off, but nothing happened until, just before 2012, out of the blue, Walter, DL4RCK, said he had this thing called RCK Skimmer. And he said, if you'd like to try it, send me an email and we'll do a beta test. And it's based on MMVARI. That's the same guy who wrote MMTTY that we all know and love. MMVARI is also a variant that does RTTY. It also does a lot of other modes. And that's the core of this technology. And it brought RTTY, PSK31, PSK63, and other modes, to the skimming arena. It can connect to the RBN, as well as Walter also created a dedicated digital packet cluster. And we'll talk about that, because that can be of use. If you're into RTTY, sometimes you feel like, the foster stepchild. Up at the top, the CW people think they own up here, then, the sideband folks are okay, and then the digital people are those who can't copy code, right? But, this really, gets us into the whole part of it, and there's a dedicated service just for us on digital. There's upwards of a couple dozen RTTY skimmers on during a major contest. If you tune in during the week and there's not much going on, there may only be 5 or 6, but there's usually somebody on and there's a lot of good spots coming. The RVN was quickly enhanced to handle these, so in the past you had to look to see the speed, because it was showing up as a 45 word per minute CW signal. That was enhanced and now clearly indicates the mode, and it's really pretty easy to use. Let's talk a little bit about the digital cluster, because what Walter did is not only take all the RCK skimmer spots, he also picked up spots that looked digital in nature off the rest of the worldwide packet cluster. So if you're looking for digital signals on the air, you can go to his cluster and you get them from just about everywhere. It's digital modes only. It easily integrates with a contesting or logging program because it uses the same protocols. His telnet address is this one. He is on port 8000, which is a little bit different, so you have to gin your telnet address in your software to go off the normal port 23 up to 8000. When you log on, type help for the commands. It's a little bit different, and there are some things you're going to want to peek up for the way you want to operate. Here's what it looks like, and a couple of things are interesting here. You'll notice. Okay.
You can take it out of the hole.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's people who like to move, and there's other people who like to stand still. I like to move. If you look here, there's something you will not see on your traditional packet cluster, and that's this DE. That basically means that it heard this call. You don't know if he's CQing, you don't know what's going on, but the software picked it up. If you're in a contest, you probably don't want this type of information. You want to know somebody who's soliciting for calls. And there's a way in the command structure to go in and have it just give you the CQs. And that I'd recommend doing. And again, do the help and it'll give you the commands. It's pretty straightforward and it's worth tuning it in. It does have all the things we've gotten used to from Skimmer. It gives you a signal to noise ratio, although the algorithm for doing it does not agree with my ears here, but it's still useful to tell it. It gives you the calls with the familiar --hash sign so you know it's a machine-generated spot. In this case, there are no human spots, but they also come through without any issues. So, well, how does it work? Well, the basic way to do this is you just need a radio that has RS-232 control, audio going over to a sound card, just like you use for MMTTY or any other way you're doing it. It's using MMVARI, so anything that you would have done to do MMVARI, it's the same configuration here. You do not need the SDRIQ type interfaces like you do with a full-up CW skimmer. That's an advantage. You don't have a lot to fuss with. The disadvantage is it looks at your receiver bandwidth only. This operates like a fairly decent second op who sits there and tunes the radio, listens for a couple of seconds and says, yep, I think I got a call, types it in and sends it to you, and then tunes the radio again. It does not look, it's like CW Skimmer looks at 96 kilohertz or more at a time. This looks at 2.5, checks it out, and then moves on. And, to get it going, you have some setup required. This will look, if you've done CW Skimmer, this is the same configuration type thing you do for CW Skimmer if you're on an IF where you're doing the CAD control. And it's any rig that OmniRig supports, and there's a bunch of them. This one is set up for a TS2000 or a Kenwood type. You have to do the serial ports, all that, set it all up, and, click the button and see how it goes. Where you start getting into some more things that are specific is with the sound card. This is set up when I was doing it on a single radio only. You can share the sound card between two radios by splitting left and right, just like you do with RTTY and like whatever. One of the things that I think is important about this technology is if you've done much RTTY contesting in an assisted mode, the thing that drives you nuts is all the people who spot people off frequency. Because if they're using AFSK, they're not on the mark frequency for setting what the frequency that's reported through the packet cluster. So you can chase spots that have no value whatsoever. If this is set up correctly, once it's set up correctly, it's a machine. It's going to do it right. You should get on, verify what you're doing and what the frequencies are to make sure it's correct, because the last thing you want to do is put out junk over the packet cluster. First of all, it doesn't help anybody, and you will get the nastiest emails from all these people who aren't pleased with it. And connecting out to the rest of the world, because you can't really use this yourself. You want to share this with the world. As you turn this on, this gets you into the RBN, the aggregator, to share it out that path, or it can also be shared through a packet cluster. You can connect it up that way. And then this is the connection into DL4RCK's cluster. It has additional detection modes than CW Skimmer does. You can have it do the DE if you really want to do that. It'll look for test. It'll do QRZ. You can say CQ worldwide. You can say bar tag. You can say field day. Anything here, it'll look for it. If you do contest style detection, in a lot of the contests, you'll send your call, and then you put a CQ at the end. So whoever in the contest has heard your call doesn't have to wait for a new iteration to see that you're CQing. So if you put the CQs at the end, that's how that's detected. And, it's pretty straightforward. Since this is basically a scanner approach, you have to tell it what frequencies to scan and also what modes. Walter does a great job of pre-filling all of these things that you can start with and then change it. You can have one screen that never changes and you're always going to scan 40. Then you're going to look for PSK31 on 20. You're going to go to RTTY. You're going to go, you can do that. Or you can go up here to an advanced search mode, and then it changes every hour. So you can have it look, looking at 80 meters in the middle of the day, it doesn't buy you much. Neither does looking at 10 in the middle of the night. So you can have this go through and look for what you want when you want to do it. And this is important because if you're looking on 10 when 10 is dead, all you're doing is missing everybody on 20 when 20 is lively. So there is some art to setting this up. And he does a lot to help you through it. There's also some presets here that, if it's a RTTY contest, sending out all these PSK31 spots probably isn't a good idea. So, you kind of taper it to what you need. There's a PSK63 contest coming up. You might want to help those guys out. So you can tailor it to what's needed at the time. Here's what it looks like. If you've ever used MMVARI, this screen will look familiar. You get the waterfall, it shows you where stuff is. These are the calls that the RTTY skimmer has picked out. It's got these guys. And mine is set up to only show CQers. So you only see CQers here. And this shows what's actively being decoded. You can really get trapped into just watching how neat the technology is and watching stuff down here goes and trying to decide if it shows up here. And it's kind of fun, but you know, that's basically what it's showing. Now to enhance this, if you just do one radio, which is what I did to start with, you feel like you missed a lot because you know you're listening on 15 and you really wanted to be listening on 20. And you wanted to be listening at the low end of 20 and you were up at the high end of 20. So the more radios you have, the more coverage you can get. And you can get even to the point where you're putting multiple radios on the same band. WZ7I Wes uses a vertical on one radio, and he uses a Yagi on the other radio, both on 20. So you'll see him spotting, you know, stations on 20 that are farther apart than you would think he would be, and that shows he's using the two radios. This is a key thing. If you've done CW Skimmer, you found that you can hook up CW Skimmer to your K3 off the IF, and you can use the same antenna and the same radio on CW as you are for the contest. Here, if you do that, remember it's looking at 2.5 kilohertz chunks. When you go to transmit, it can't listen, and its timer keeps going. So he's listening to nothing while you're transmitting, and he needs that time. So you really want to have a dedicated radio to run, you know, Rick Skimmer. You also want it so your own transmitter doesn't kill it. On a PC, it's pretty easy to get 2 instances of Rick Skimmer going, running 2 radios, either real radios or SDRs or whatever. You don't need a lot of computer. You know, the old XP single core junk computer you have, you can put that on and it's, you know, in the 20% range. And it'll do that no sweat all day. There's a long list of compatible rigs, so, you know, if you've got that TS440 you only use for field day, you know, you can put it on there and let it have a run and see what you think of it. You can use, and I've done this approach, and Wes has, is go to some of these low-cost SI 570 SDRs, you know, like the Fifi or the Soft Rock, and you can use those with HDSDR as an interface, but be careful. And I'll talk about that in a second. Here's basically the interface with the digital one. If you're using like a Fifi, which has the sound card is built into the rig, you can use a virtual audio cable. If you're using like one of Tony's Soft Rock receivers, you have to use a real cable. You know, but it's still not a hard thing to do. You do have to have a way of sharing the serial ports so everybody knows what frequency the radio is on. You know, a VSP manager, COM0COM, or VSP, or and then both of these guys are there to feed the spots out to the world. If you use HDSR, you need one, you know, reasonable quality. You know, RTTY doesn't have a huge demand on the quality of the sound cards. You can get away with a lot. So you need one reasonable one, and then you need whatever the SDR uses. If it's a Fifi, you've got the sound card built in. You don't have to worry about it. If you're using one of the Soft Rocks, you ought to use something that's fairly decent, so it'll, you know, because you need that to do the IQ decoding. Again, you can use copper cables or, you know, the virtual audio cables if you want, VSPE or any of the serial port controllers to get everything to go. And here's where it gets tricky, is all the images in spurs. The Soft Rock style or any of the SDRs are a 0IF. They radiate a fairly loud signal through the antenna port. If you have multiple of these radios sitting next to each other, they hear each other, and there are more decoding schemes with quadrature-style detectors than I understand. But it's easy. You know, Wes abandoned this because he'd be listening on 20 and he'd be spotting people on 17. And, you know, again, the #1 rule of any automated system is don't spot junk. So, you know, you have to be careful, make sure it's going, especially if you have a low-end system. Here's what it looks like. Here's HDSR controlling one Soft Rock receiver. Here's the second one, and you see the now familiar Rick Skimmer screen over here. This guy's in control. He'll step him through all the little 2.5 kilohertz steps as it goes. You'll see the spectral display. And the key thing here, which you probably can't read, is the CPU utilization there is like 15%. This is a single core, pretty basic WinXP machine. And this loading doesn't go up appreciably if it's a contest, because remember, you're looking at 2.5 kilohertz, and there's only so much you can put in 2.5 kilohertz regardless if it's a contest or not. And this was done during a contest. But pretty decent stuff. The absolute ultimate is to take a QS1R. That's the 7-band direct digital down converting receiver that's used for the skim servers. If you're not familiar with that, basically they load software into the FPGA and they look at 7 bands simultaneously all at once. And it's magic. You can get all the CW spots, and that's what most people use. It does not have the image problem because it's taking everything down directly digitally and not doing any of the 0IF stuff. So in addition to decoding the CW on 7 bands, you can add at least 2 of those bands for digital RTTY decoding, at the same time. West WZ7i came up with that. And if you've already got a skim server going, this is a great way to enhance your existing hardware investment in hardware, the radio as well as the antennas. It uses some clever software that allows the output of the QS1R to replicate an audio stream for HD SDR, and it does a lot of magic. You can basically get 2 of these. The decoding in a contest, you're getting up into the high-end Intels. If you're just running 96 kilohertz, even if you're running all of this, a better Core 2 Duo will do it. Here's the block diagram, and here there's an awful lot of information on the reverse beacon network blog, because Wes wrote up this. You'll see this chart along with a lot of the other details on setting it up. But basically this guy splits stuff off. He feeds the skimmer server as well as the 2 paths for doing the rig skimmer. So what's next? Well, I think we're going to continue to get more rig skimmers out there as people see how the technology plays, and as you get more features and more users, it'll get more valuable. Walter has already said he's got some new stuff coming. I'm reading between the lines and thinking one of the things he has coming is the ability to get past the OmniRig 2 radio per computer limitation. So it's possible you may be able to run more hardware with less computers. I like the idea that if this is done right, you're going to have better quality spots, just like the CW skimmer. I mean, CW skimmer, the accuracy is better than I am. It's better than most of the operators, and I think we can get that for RTTY. There are also rumors that somebody is working on a wideband many-channel RTTY decoder. Anybody here know of that? Well, darn. But we're hoping. There keep being rumors. Alex says he's working on something, but maybe not right now. This is also key. If you're going to use this type of technology, what does this make you? So please enter this, because people need to know everybody's playing by the rules, and then we can enjoy all the technology that we've got. Here's some resources. I've got a very limited number of these printed out, but you really, to do any of this, you want to go to the web. Google is your friend. Look at the PDFs when they're posted. This will give you all the links to it, and welcome to the club. Thank you. All right.
Okay, next up is a short award presentation, then we'll open it up for questions either on the presentations or anything that you want to ask any of us or any of you. What's that? Oh, a wine commercial? No commercials today, sorry. Okay. So, excuse me, this is Mark, K6 UFO. You may know Mark as the the RTTY NAQP manager and a big contributor to the Stanford W6YX station, and obviously giving us lots of QSO. So, Mark?
Thank you, Ed. Now that you know my call is K6 UFO, you know my name's really Morph. Remember Morph and me. The biggest RTTY contest of the year, CQ Worldwide RTTY, we wanted to recognize some of the winners here. The full results are in the CQ magazine, March 2013. And I encourage you to go read the whole write-up. It's very interesting. Ed did a great job on that. The next CQ Worldwide RTTY will be the 28th and 29th of September, so reserve some time on your calendar now. There were 35 sponsored plaques. Wow, that's fantastic. A lot of awards are going out. We want to say thank you to those plaque sponsors, and you could be a plaque sponsor if you contact Mike, K4GMH. We're just going to give awards to the few plaque sponsors that we knew were going to be here, so you don't have to sit through all of them, just a few. And it's nice to give those people some recognition. So just these 6 we expect to be here today. First is our single op low power North America winner. That's Richard BE3KI. Come on up, Richard. Great. Hey, Ed, could you give him this plaque? And then he gets to shake your hand. Yeah. That's an honor, too.
You're all right, no problem.
All right. Hey, Richard. Thanks. Next is a multi-single high-power North America winner, which was the W1UE group. I'm not sure if W1UE is here, but I bet one of his operators is here. K1LZ, K3JL, any of the W1UE guys here? Okay, we'll get it to Dennis later this weekend. Our multi-2 world winner was a P49X. I think you're going to have, I'll shake your hand there. And the multi-2 North America winner, VE7 Sugar Victor, and his whole crew of operators. Oh, there he is. Hi, Dale. And we're giving him a couple extra plaques for some other VE7 guys, so that's very nice that you can take those back and give those to your local guys, maybe in a local club meeting, or just stop by and see them. And our last 2 here in the club competition, the worldwide winner was the Rhine-Ruhr DX Association. Do we have any Rhine-Ruhr DX Association member here? Anyone from Germany? Okay, I'll have to track one down. And then the North America winner in the club competition was the Potomac Valley Radio Club. I know we got someone from down there. There we go. So let's put them in one group and get a picture, and then we'll open up the floor and let you ask some questions of the speakers after that. Wow, what a great group.
Let's turn over to him. Mark.
All right, make them smile. Come on. All right, great. So I hope to see you in the contest. Ed always twists my arm and has me help him, and you know, it's a lot of fun to actually help him because I get to see all the calls and the logs and see how much fun everybody has. So let's have some time for questions.
Why don't you stay up here and make questions? So, for those of you that have questions and have a few minutes, you can ask questions of any of us, any of the presenters, or any topic beyond that that you'd like. So, any questions anybody'd like to pose? Yes, sir.
You talked about moving the forum. When are you talking about moving to?
That's a good question. Just getting agreement that we can move it has been pretty difficult because of all the interaction. As soon as we move this forum in place of another one, then there will be those people that will say, you know, now I can't go to a forum that's going in parallel. So it's a process I'll be working on all year. I thought I had it done for this one, but it didn't work out.
It's just hard to say you're in favor of moving it until you know when you're talking about moving it to.
No, it's a much bigger problem than that. Much bigger problem than that. But to answer your question more directly, what I'd like to do is to move it just to an earlier spot on Saturday morning, so that there's time to get over to room 1 so that's in general what we're trying to do. Yeah. Yes, sir.
On the same line, I can remember
10 years ago or so that there would be 1/3 the number of people at
Yes.
RTTY contest forum. So I'm really impressed with the numbers. But more importantly, in those days we had an RTTY banquet, RTTY contest banquet. And for this number of people at the forum, would it be nice if we could start a banquet again?
Well, that's a good input. We'll consider it. That's great. That's great. One of the things, I just make a comment on the increase in RTTY population. When I first got started, of course, it was still on this exponential rise, and I was telling everybody, I was getting kind of melodramatic about what the rise was, and it was growing greater than CW, and even the CW people were saying that. Well, it's actually not true. If you look at the CQ contest, for example, the CQ Worldwide CW has about twice as many logs submitted and a bit more actual unique calls than what we have in RTTY. But all of both CW, phone, and RTTY really are rising at an exponential rate, and that's great for all of us. It's hard to contest if you don't have other people to work. Yes, sir.
Can Larry expound a little bit on why tone is not true FSK friendly?
Yeah, I can expound a little bit. David, the developer of two-tone, is fundamentally opposed to true FSK. And if you engage, did I say that strongly enough? Yes. If you engage him in email discourse, he will make that clear to you, which I had done in the beginning. He has what I would call pseudo FSK using EXT-FSK and a demodulator that looks at the audio tones and decides when it's high or low so that you can run FSK. So there is a way to do it, but it's kind of like FSK light. Because I have my own personal prejudices about AFK versus AFSK, I use two decoders and MMTTY to deliver the FSK, and I can still run up to 7 more decoder windows of two-tone, provided MMTTY is the thing that makes FSK go high and low. So it's that you don't have to completely abandon FSK. You can still embrace two-tone to a very high degree. So there are certainly ways to get around that, and we can talk about that offline. But if you're committed to FSK, it no longer means I can't possibly do two-tone.
Yeah, but basically, as you know, MMTTY has the FSK transmit capability built into it. Two-tone does not. And so, in the case of write log, where native write log without any decoder has RTTY capability, receive and transmit built in, write log has FSK. So in write log, you can't have two-tone as the main decoder and do FSK. That's the way I run it. Okay. But in N1MM, you just set up your main decoder, first decoder as MMTTY, and then have a receive only window for two-tone, and that's actually good. That'll give you an incentive to get up to at least 2 decoders, and I think you'll find that that'll be really, really helpful. Anything else? Okay.
You said that all this would be on the website.
Yes.
What do you mean when you say website? I'm not really
Oh,
sure.
well, I won't take time to bring it up. It'll be on my website, w0yk.com. I'll announce it on when I get it up on the RTTY reflector, so if you subscribe to that, you'll see it there. Yeah. And we'll have the video. I think Charlie was going to try to get a video of this session for people that weren't here. We actually have a video of Larry's session that was done as he was doing warm-ups, so we'll have that even directly, which will be really nice, like the videos he does for N1MM. And then we'll have all the slides and PDFs, so all of that will be on the website. Okay? Thank you very much. Oh, one more question.
Well, I'm VK for Uncle Charlie, and I tried to do RTTY fairly successfully until I had to leave Australia in March, and I was very pleased with it, and I enjoyed using it. And I was the first skimmer from down under. However, I never was able to do the other modes, and I think you've answered the question that I did not have MMVary loaded on my computer. I had MMTTY but not MMVary.
Okay, I think I've had some issues, and I've not totally resolved them. If I'm running both, like PSK63 and RTTY, it looks like there is something with there's the dot, in the baud rates and all. I think Walter has the settings when he did his development where he's looking for commas instead of periods. And I think that confuses it when it looks up the mode type. When you go from a mode that has a fractional baud rate to one that does not, it seems to get confused. If you run all PSK only, it seems to work better. It's only when you mix them it gets confused. I don't know quite how to fix it, but I've never really gotten into the mixed mode that much to have the trouble. Is that similar to what you had?
That is similar, but I've been unable to copy any of the other modes other than RTTY. Is that because I don't have very loaded on my computer?
No. What I did is I turned it on, hit the button, and it worked out of the box. The frequencies were off, but it worked perfectly for me, so having no problem, I have no information.
I talked to Wes, and he couldn't, he didn't know why either, so anyway.
The only thing I can think of is if you have a mismatch of IF bandwidth, where you're looking for tones that are out. Do you see them on the screen? Where the PSK shows up as.
Yeah, but I get gibberish.
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean it receives it, but I don't get any decoding.
Okay, that's outside my understanding.
All right, no.
You only know things when they broke and you fix them.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We really appreciate the support and attendance, and happy diddling. See you next year.